ahead and get started if you can. So you don't need this up?
I don't need that up. No, someone else watch. Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, let's do the introductions first.
I
So,
will get to our agenda.
Cecil, before you take a bite, we're gonna do introductions. You want to introduce yourself?
You just do.
Russell, that works for me.
Uh-huh.
I've always wanted to say that. Cecil Russell, General Manager of the Graffiti Museum. How's the Graffiti Museum doing? What's new?
We need 5 million more dollars. Other than that, we're doing great.
Okay.
That's it? That's it?
There's seven this afternoon.
Hey, maybe Musk will find some of that money.
You're gonna do a check?
All right, go ahead.
I'll put it with Commercial and talk about this.
Tom Aronson, CEO of the Almond Blossom Cruise. And Visit Majestic.
Trish Christensen, President of Modesto Chamber of Commerce.
John Blinds, Modesto Council Commission. I'm also the chairman of EDC here at the Chamber, board member.
Kirsty Boyette Zacharias, Community Past Chair of Chamber Board and Vice Chair of Personal Events.
My name is Tom Howe. I'm a retired citizen of Modesto looking for ways to re-engage in the community.
I'm Patrick Shields. I'm the field representative assistant to Manny Greenwald, Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors.
My name is Kat Backus. I'm with the City of Modesto's Economic Development Department.
Stacy Kohlmeyer Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of the Manufacturers Council in Modesto.
And Brad, if you're online, if you can introduce yourself. Kelly. Brad Blakely and Kelly.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Kelly with Finish Fair Mall. Happy to be joining today remotely.
Thank you. So we will get started without further ado. And I have a introduction for Stacy that I've memorized. So anyways, we're delighted to welcome Stacy Kohlmeyer Johnson. Did I say your? Okay. Who brings a unique blend of professional expertise and deep California roots to our event today. Stacy is a proud 6th-generation Californian whose family is called the Roberts Ferry area along the Tuolumne River, home for 6 generations. This deep connection to the land and community has shaped her approach to leadership throughout her career. Currently serving as Executive Director of the Manufacturers Council of the Central Valley, MCCV, Stacy champions manufacturing advancement through strategic advocacy and member engagement. Before this role, she spent over 20 years with the Almond Board of California, eventually serving as Vice President of Global Marketing and Communications, where she helped transform the industry and drive remarkable growth. Her entrepreneurial side shines through her ownership of Roberts Ferry Gourmet, where she breathed new life into a 40-year-old legacy local food manufacturer and retailer. Missing the website for that, but Stacy stays actively involved in community development through her advisory board work with BioCircular Valley and Beam Circular, and co-leads the Workforce Development Task Force with Stanislaus 2030. With her combination of executive leadership experience and deep local ties, Stacy offers a valuable perspective on building sustainable industries while honoring community heritage and fostering regional growth. And MCCV used to be a regular here, and it's been several years, so we're glad to have you. We hope you will continue to come back if you're able as just a member as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
So, another quick question you put in. You were the almond board. You, the genius behind almond milk.
It's interesting. Almond milk was a tremendous battle because everybody is like, well, it doesn't take very many almonds. We have a lot of almonds to move. And then it caught on fire and then it started moving a lot of almonds. So I think I like to say I was part of the crew that made almonds healthy. And that big step forward for the industry really paved the groundwork for almonds to be not just a little bit of an ingredient in a cereal, but to stand on its own with a halo of health around it. and people started eating handfuls of almonds. And once they did that, things like almond milk made a whole lot of sense.
What percentage of almonds are made into almond milk?
That's a really good question, and I'm a little outdated, but I'm gonna say probably 6 to 7%.
That's all?
Mm-hmm. It might be more now. I'm 7 or so years from my last peek behind the
Are they
curtain.
part of the manufacturers council?
They are not part of the Manufacturers Council, but we actually serve on different boards and committees together all the time, yeah. And I do have some almond manufacturers like Blue Diamond on the council.
Thank you.
Well, I'm really glad to be
Just
here.
gave us a really good idea, so.
Oh, good, okay. We used to be here regularly, and I'm really hoping that we can get back into a regular groove of partnership with the chamber. Our organization seems to have suffered what I like to call a little bit of long COVID. Coming out of COVID was hard for us. And so one of my objectives in coming on board was to just kind of get back into a regular stride and pace of interaction.
Find your slide deck.
Sure. That's okay. I didn't know how formal you were, but I thought I like to read and listen, so. Yes. And do you want me to just tell you to advance the slide, or should I? Okay, great. So I joined the Manufacturers Council in June of last year and stepped into the role of executive director, which was previously filled by Maren Pitt, who many of you I think know. And Maren's still with us part-time, serving in the capacity of policy director. So that's our first ever more than one employee at the Manufacturers Council. And we're making good use of the extra hands. So a little bit about the Manufacturers Council. Our purpose is to serve as a collective voice for manufacturing interests in the Central Valley. And our area of focus is Stanislaus, San Joaquin, and Merced counties. And our objective is to address local issues with local resources. And we've been working on that for the last 30 years. The genesis of our organization was actually air quality standards that were being developed about 30 years ago. And the stationary air polluters, manufacturers and ag in the area realized that they needed to band together to speak together with one voice on education advocacy so that their businesses were understood. So our mission is to provide leadership and technical expertise through timely acquisition and dissemination of information and to do advocacy and policy work on different topics. And we'll dive into that a little bit more. And our vision is to see a successful Central Valley manufacturing sector well understood by stakeholders and operating in an environment free of constraining regulations, though we understand that everybody wants clean air and clean water and access to water, as do we, and we're willing participants in that dialogue.
Sorry, we're having that.
That's okay. I run a lot of meetings, and oh my gosh, the last meeting, the poor guy, he had a bunch of scientific data for us, and it got messed up when I projected it, and it was really difficult. Oh, sorry. Should I stand somewhere different?
No, you're fine.
They were just facing.
Let's see. I think we're probably on the fourth slide. Yeah, okay. So who comprises the Manufacturers Council? We currently have 30 to 40 members. Membership recruitment is a pretty big priority for me. We actually just brought on Dairy Farmers of America and Compass Foods. And what we're really doing is looking to expand the folks that we're interacting with so that all of our networking and our shared learning practices get stronger through the strength and breadth of our membership. So you can see it's a variety of different types of manufacturers. We lean very heavily into the food and wine and spirits manufacturing arena, which makes a lot of sense based on where we are. Also utilities, packaging, petroleum, warehousing and logistics. And we're starting to get memberships with an interesting group of folks that are really focused on solving challenges and issues for manufacturers in this region. So Beam Circular and Stanislaus 2030 are newer members to our organization. Yeah, so on the next slide, a little bit about kind of what manufacturing looks like in Stanislaus County specifically. So we're the 4th largest industry in the county by job numbers. And if you include logistics, which sometimes we do, I think we're actually 2nd. There's about 23,000 people employed by manufacturing here in the county right now. And about 10% of those folks are expected to retire in the next 5 years. So, workforce development and upskilling and training is kind of a new, urgent, important area for us. Manufacturing pays the highest average wage in the county. And we're the most profitable industry in the county. Though we're not the largest, healthcare is, we are the most profitable. So really interesting kind of tidbit there. Okay. Okay, so what is our role in convening all of the different members? What purpose do we serve? So as I mentioned, we focus on local advocacy, and specifically we focus on air, water, health, and safety in the manufacturing environment. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We also do advocacy on issues affecting subgroups of our membership. For instance, right now, we're working with a coalition of manufacturers in Turlock, in the city limits of Turlock, who are advocating to the city that sewer rate increase that has been put through needs to be relooked and reconsidered. We also facilitate peer-to-peer collaboration and networking. And really, we're focused on shared learning and best practices. And the way that we do this is through monthly committee meetings. The primary way that we do this is the monthly committee meetings. And the agenda, the content, and the dialogue are all driven by the membership. So I have committee members who create the agendas, the topics, and then they steer and drive the dialogue during the meetings. All of our meetings are hybrid. And really excitingly, this year, we're taking some of our meetings to the road. And for instance, our March meetings are going to be on MJC's West Campus. And we're going to do a tour of the trade and technical resources they have on campus there. Super excited about that. And then we provide relevant resources. So we take all of the advocacy research and work that we do. We take all of the materials created and shared at the committee meetings, and they all live on a very robust members-only website. You can go and chat in a forum. You can look at a calendar, which is just talking. Once I really got it filled out, how many deadlines and meetings and requirements are calendared for these guys. And it's no wonder that they need help, somebody who can just kind of morale it all and manage it for them. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell what we do. So let's talk about what that actually looks and feels like with a couple of different subjects. So recent things that we have done is submit comments, for instance, to the Air Resources Board on their greenhouse gas emissions reporting standards. And they're seeking public comment on how they should collect the information, where it should be stored, how they should validate it. So we submitted comments on behalf of all of our members, and we provided the resources that we used, that we developed in writing those comments so that they could submit their own comments. And it's all housed on the website. They can go cut and copy and paste and send their own comments in. I mentioned the Turlock sewer rate. We've written letters to the editor. We've attended city council meetings. We're in the process of establishing a meeting with all of the manufacturers that are participating with the city to talk about the research project that they did to set the new rates. And then we're also in the process of formalizing workforce development partnerships with folks like Stanislaus 2030 and a Beam Circular, which is both a environmental and a workforce development initiative for us. And then also like our Stanislaus County Workforce Development Board. What I like about this slide is it shows you kind of the breadth and depth of the type of work that we do. So the CARB comments are a state issue. Turlock is clearly a regional issue for a subset of our membership. And the workforce development is a regional issue across the 3 counties that we're working in. So current challenges, it was hard to knock it down to one slide, but I did it. I think the practicality of emerging regulations is a real challenge for us. And there's kind of a, if you write the regulation, they'll figure out the solution attitude sometimes. And we're reaching the point where there are actually regulations in place that are enforceable that aren't actually enactable. And so there's some really interesting challenges that come with that. The pace of the changing requirements is also a pretty big issue for us. I'm not joking when I say there's hardly a day that goes by every day of the year that there's not a deadline, there's not a reporting requirement, there's not a meeting being held, there's not open comment periods that are occurring. And just staying up to date on that is a tremendous burden for the manufacturers in our area. We're really kind of working through the urgent and important water management regulations that are being built today. So Sigma and more groundwater pumping regulations. We're struggling with that because at the same time, there is no effort or work going on currently to add additional water storage, which would help to overcome some of the new regulations, the requirements for those regulations. And then workforce availability, training, and retention. I mentioned a pretty big wave of retirements coming. And there's a really big focus around upskilling and retraining, automating, and using new technology as it's available. We know it won't be a one job to one person replacement as the retirement wave happens. And so trying to prepare for this massive wave of retirements has been a big challenge for us. Okay, then the next slide. So our vision for the future, despite all of our challenges, is quite optimistic. We believe we can operate in an arena free of unreasonable constraints, where we are contributing to a more economically or environmentally viable environment, but that it's economically viable for us as well. We believe that we can strengthen the manufacturing talent pipeline by competing and collaborating with others who are already working on this subject as well. And we think that we can make sure that manufacturing is considered in regional planning by making sure it's well understood by folks like yourselves. And then also, we're focused on developing collaborative solutions to Valley-specific challenges. And, there's not a lot of groups that are focused exclusively in the Valley, which is clearly one of our strengths. And so, we think we can lead the way here. And with that, I'd say thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Modesto, Stanislaus County, Central Valley have bad rap for education.
Mhm.
Yet the Manufacturers Council reports you have the #1 wage job.
Mhm.
How do we, the collective we,
Mhm.
help combat the BS that it's okay to go into this industry and stop making fun of us?
Yes,
That's,
it's a
even
great
the local
question.
paper isn't nice about it.
Yeah.
But yet you're providing tens of thousands of jobs at an incredible wage, doing an incredible service to our community.
Yeah. I think the answer to that is that there are people or groups like SPY, the Partners in Education, and even over at MJC that they've been working on this kind of individually. And part of our role in the future will be to convene folks and to try and create a shared platform for voicing and consistency of messages for voicing the benefits of going into manufacturing. Cecilia Huddleston over at MJC says she feels like she's, banging her head on the wall when she explains to people in other departments that you can graduate with a certification, not even an AA, and be making $100,000 within a year or two, working in the trades, and people honestly don't believe it. So we've got an awareness issue, and we've got kind of a how to take action with the information once you believe it issue. Also, we do have some programs, but we're not as organized as the groups that are advocating for children to graduate from high school and go to college. There's another option there, and it doesn't mean that there's not continuing education going on at all. And so I think that we probably need to do a better job of, aligning ourselves, creating good messaging, being consistent, and then getting that message out to the folks that are counseling children as they're thinking about their future, and honestly to parents who perhaps don't believe that trade jobs are where they want to see their children go to.
So is it okay if I take it a step further and look across the table at our government reps? Like, is there a way that we can get together with the Manufacturing Council, Trish's team, both government entities, our team, because I've been texting PR nonstop. We have a news station coming in. Like, to really advocate for, hey, stop making fun of Valley because we're feeding America. We're providing America with goods and products and all these things. Like, how do we start that?
Yeah, I do think that with the county's 2030 initiative, that part of it, right? We, in 2030, one of the aspects of it is utilization, that there is part of this issue where we're having a large part of our workforce that's going to be retiring, but it's also these jobs that are well-paying jobs that present opportunities for a lot of our local students who wouldn't be going into a college education or don't want to, right? That's part of it. That's part of Stanislaus 2030. That's part of the BEAM initiative. Is addressing that.
I don't mean to interrupt, but is there a public relations initiative in today's terms, in a world where everything's changing week to week? 2030 is a nice thing. It's a thing of a committee. It's not today in the news today, like CBS calling today.
So I actually am co-chairing the Awareness and Retention Committee, Stanislaus 2030. And we've started with some research. We're surveying high school kids. We're surveying their counselors. We have had focus groups with manufacturers to talk about where are the connections missing, and then how do we then create a communications program against that?
And I'll double up.
Because the connections are missing.
Yeah, I'll double up on that on my personal side as a school board member in Turlock, right? One of the issues that I've talked about, and we had a recent presentation on, was our CTE programs, which is our career technical education, right? We have career technical education programs that are focused in certain industries that it's great. I mean, it's healthcare, it's, law enforcement, it might be something like that. But at the end of the day, the same sentiment that I share with them, I think a lot of us share, is that those are great professions, they're honorable professions to go in. But we have a massive need where you can go into a trade or a manufacturing. I would argue a large percentage of the manufacturing trade is having somebody that can come in and address issues, or in-house addressing issues in the manufacturing process, right? Whether it's welding, plumbing, electricity, all that kind of stuff. The amount of programs that we could be pushing students into, HVAC, plumbing, electricity, those trade jobs that are massively under supported with bodies. And that's why the cost of everything, building everything, is going up. Those jobs are also making $100,000 a year. And it's a great way to start a business, get your contract license and start your own business, right? And I think that's part of what, having to have that conversation. There is, to your point, it is hard to break through that wall of saying, that 4-year degree is the best thing that you can go get, because statistically right now, it's probably more detrimental to have a 4-year degree and student loans than it would be to get a career.
Yeah, I'm just talking about, is there a current communication
I
plan?
can speak to
Not
that
long
too.
term.
Like, I know that for the economic development department, like being so new, one of my Trevin's main concerns, and Jessica's, of course, is like bringing more manufacturing to for business attraction, like more manufacturing to Modesto. And like, if it doesn't work in Modesto, still like trying to keep it in the Central Valley. So like with that comes the messaging, like this will create this many jobs. Like if we bring like a biomanufacturing center, right? So it's it's the messaging along with the attraction that will gain that, like, the visibility to people saying like, oh, like, here's this industry that's becoming larger within our community. Like, it gives people that option. So like,
I think to your answer, Todd, today there is not a program. The objective, one of the objectives of Stanislaus 2030 is that there will be a program that will be sustainable. Yeah, I think what we're looking for right now are what are the missing connection points? What are the messages that people can hear and that will resonate with them? And then, like, what are the appropriate pathways? Like, do we actually want to target the students, or is it really the counselors and the parents, so that, you know, they're creating an environment where it's a real opportunity that they can consider, as opposed to maybe a counselor saying, oh, no, let's talk about going to college.
There's another gap that some of the employers, I sit on one of the subcommittees here with manufacturing in 2030. And one thing I learned that I wasn't aware of in that growing from your own into this environment and internships and apprenticeships, there's a gap that happens because the training and exposure that is really needed early.
Yeah.
They can't put them on the floor to be a part of it. They're under 18.
Yeah.
So, and they're not out of high school till they're 18. So some of these internships are like their own gap.
And that might be like an advocacy piece that we need to pick up. You know, some high school seniors are 18. So what's the difference between one high school senior and another? Can't we say if you're a high school senior, you can be on the floor of a plant for a tour or an experience, an internship of some kind? And yeah, so that's a problem. And then all of the trade and technical programs are compacted. There's not enough resources, educators, and classrooms. And we have people like Gallo who are running extensive, very well-developed internship programs, and they're creating a highly qualified candidate that they don't place many of them at all. And where do they go after that? So there's all sorts of opportunities for a collaboration to step in and say, okay, Gallo, when you're done with these folks, the ones you don't place internally, let's figure it out. Is it a job board? Is it a job fair? Is it mentoring? Is it handing off? Yeah. What's the handoff point? There's a lot of touch points where there's just no connection at all.
Hey, John, can you put the slide back up?
You mean Trish, right?
First,
I got
you.
it. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
I run to the board. Which slide are you looking for?
The slide that had the
3 circles.
icons of all the various businesses.
Members.
Oh,
Then it's in the very beginning, okay, there. So I see a couple in here that aren't true manufacturing. As an example, Southwest, Sierra Pacific. So do you also represent warehousing?
Yeah.
So, okay, leads me to my next question. John, you and I had this discussion earlier. There's a fuss going on between Modesto and Salida, the county, okay, about the new big warehousing.
Yeah.
It's out on Dale and Kiernan.
Yep.
So Withdraw's kind of weighed in a little bit, you know, on the side of Salida. And, you know, evidently the people who want to do that don't want to wait the 18 months that for all the studies and everything. And Modesto said we can speed that up. County, okay. Kind of got the brakes on it. And then in favor of Salida. I don't particularly care who gets credit for it. We need it. We need the jobs.
Yeah.
Okay. And the negative, and I'm not suggesting we as a chamber get involved in a fight with Salida, because we've had that and moved on from that. But the project just simply needs to happen. And it needs more positive support.
Yeah.
And because the guy that's the head of the Salida MAC has said, well, you know, it's low paying jobs. We don't need those kinds of things. Excuse me, you know, people who make those statements have never created a job in their life. Okay. So what is your position? Or are you guys going to get involved in helping that potential member of your organization.
Yeah, so I haven't had any contact with them, but I'm kind of where you're at, which is we don't care if it's Modesto or Salida, it just needs to happen. And so, yeah, they're actually on my list to reach out to, see if there's any way that we can support them and to make sure that they know that they can be part of a collective that wants to get behind them.
It's a
And
couple of million square feet of
Yeah.
warehousing,
yeah,
logistics in that.
no, I know. It's
So
great. I mean,
to answer your question, I really don't know the answer to this. Have they identified what's actually gonna go into that warehouse space? Like, do they have active tenants waiting for things to be built? A legit question. I don't know. I have no clue.
Frankly, it's just something that just popped up. That, and I'm sure the chamber's probably not involved in any of this at this point.
yeah, I just read an article this morning about the annexing question.
But I mean, this is Economic Development Committee.
Mhm.
And Economic Development Committee's always been in favor of jobs. And frankly, we don't care. We didn't care where it was, just if it was jobs and if it was in our reach, in our area.
Mhm.
And that, where it was out Crow's Landing or it was in Salida or Modesto, Turlock, didn't matter. We just wanted to support job creating activities.
Right.
And get on the side of that and try to get bureaucracy out of the way.
Right.
Okay. It's back to what you were talking about education. You don't need a 4-year degree to get a warehousing job that can pay you $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year.
That's correct.
Okay, and because of our low education standards and that, it would seem that we would want to be more in favor of because the other question is, okay, if not that, then what?
Mhm.
The answer is zero.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Would it make sense to redefine education? It seems to me that someone who's put in 2 or 3 years taking an electrician's course has had the equivalent of a college major in biology or physics or whatever. And all they need to have a college degree is to have 1 year of general education, the grant. Okay. The average collegiate takes a 1-year general education grand tour, then takes 2 or 3 years of a major. And I'm saying a trade school student takes a major first, an electrician or carpentry or whatever. And then if that person had the general education, that person is the equivalent of, in my opinion, the equivalent of a college trained person. And I think people would feel more comfortable if that fact were recognized. I mean,
So that's interesting. We looked recently at a program called FAME, which is a Toyota program that is very prominent in the Midwest. And basically it's a partnership where they come in with the curriculum, they partner with a JC, and they stack a bunch of credentials that result in basically a master certified electrician or we looked at it. It's actually being trialed down south in Fresno right now. It's the first California chapter. There are regulations in California that made that 1.5-year program 2.5 years. Because in order to be certified and graduate, the way that the FAME program is structured, you have to get your AA, which means you have to do a bunch of curriculum that is not directly relevant to your chosen career.
well, that's like your general education, your history, your math,
Mhm.
your English.
Right. And for a lot of people, that's not the right route. Like they're done being a generalist and they've chosen specialty path. And so, I think through Stanislaus 2030, we're looking at how we can bring the idea of stacking credentials to be a more prominent idea here in the Valley. And then also accelerated programs that include apprenticeships. Because right now it can take quite a while. I've got a stepson who wants to be a welder and he can't get into a welding class. I'm
At
kind
high
of,
school level.
he's just out of high school. Yeah. Yeah. So I think the compacted nature of the educational institutions here is also contributing to the issue. But I also think there's a big gap. If somebody is in high school and decides they don't want to go the college route, there's not a lot of resources right now to expose them to opportunities in trade. Yes.
I had a guest last year up here from Rivian Automotive,
Mhm.
and he took a look at the county and our workforce. And specifically welding, he said this is a perfect area
Yeah.
with its rail access and transport access to become a hub for automobile part manufacturing, and even potentially some other automobile manufacturing. If you only had a big welding school, he said it's the biggest weakness in the industry, welding.
Yes.
And he said, if you could open, if somehow your community could develop a welding school program, you would be ground zero for major manufacturing,
Mhm.
because that's the weakest link apparently in major manufacturing.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head.
And MJC does a great job, but their program is
Right.
very compacted, yeah. And there is a standalone trade welding school here, but kind of the same situation. They're not, I can't remember the word right now. The state doesn't recognize them as,
Accredited.
they're not accredited, thank you.
Yeah, this guy was saying it's like a 40,000
Oh, yeah.
welder per year shortage.
Yes, yeah,
Like, it's a giant number.
And welders make fantastic.
Yeah.
yes, they
Well,
do.
he said they hired in the Midwest a welder, a woman who did not graduate high school, but was certified. She's the best at what she does.
Mhm.
Her starting package was 160 plus.
Yeah,
So it was benefits and pension on top of that.
yeah,
She started at 160 at 22 after she had gained expertise in a certain type of welding
Mhm.
industry.
And not to beat the horse, but I mean, I have friends that graduated out of the FFA programs and got certified in welding through whatever programs they needed to do. They buy a truck, put a rig on it, and they will go to Texas.
Busy for that.
Anywhere they can find a job, their jobs anywhere. They
Yeah.
take whatever job they
Is
want.
Stance Plus 2030 looking at specifically welding? Because that plays right back to manufacturing. Like, that is a hot spot of need in the country.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider what the current administration's talking about.
So I'm
with domestic.
surprised that no one, I'm on the manufacturer, uh, the manufacturing workforce development board,
Mhm.
and no one's come to us to say, welding school. I mean, we go up $30 million a year,
Mhm.
and generally it's for, there's a need for jobs, and there isn't anyone teaching those or training those. They would put together a business plan and come to our organization and say, hey, here's what I want. And then we would give them a grant of money to do that, and then hold them accountable every 6 months,
Mhm.
for, are you graduating, 10 welders, 20 welders or whatever. But no one's come to us
Mhm.
on workforce development.
Well, I think, the big vision of Stanislaus 2030 is to get all these people at the same table. I think what's happening, Cecil, is yes, MJC is compacted, and yes, there's a trade school and it's compacted, but they've never sat at the same table and said, what's the actual potential and how could we figure out how to address it, how to service it? They're living in their own worlds like we so often do in our professional lives. And so one of the things that we need to do is to set the table and say, hey, we want to talk about, general mechanics. We want to talk about fundamental electronics, and we want to talk about welding.
I'm not familiar, MJC, do they teach welding at all?
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a 19 student cohort size, and they have to go through the 3 levels together. Not that you can't drop out, you can, but, and so it only starts, I think, every 6 months or a year. I can't remember which it is. So, because their facilities are limited. It's a
It's a
hands-on,
facilities issue.
Yes.
And educator issue. It's not, I don't even think it's a money issue, the way this guy was posing.
yeah.
And Volt's not involved in that.
On an MJC, it's not, no, Volt does offer, career technical education training
Yes.
in different aspects too. I mean,
I don't do a lot of straight out welding.
yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, they do a lot more of like the electrical pieces of like, when you're
Right, no, I-
taking panels
Sure,
together.
so many number
Yeah,
of times,
yeah.
welding.
Yeah.
But to your
Well,
point,
that's
like
it.
this guy said, welding brings manufacturing.
Yes.
Well,
Period.
there's gonna be a
Drop dead,
ton of
period.
students looking for the continuing piece, because with the SPY board last week, we were at Turlock High School through the Ag Tech
Yes.
program. There's kids welding all over the place in
Right.
there, and the Career Technical Institute here is teaching virtual welding.
Right.
So
And it's really interesting, the high schools, some of them are really also specializing, like Patterson High School with their warehousing and logistics program. Whoa,
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. And I think what's going on in Ceres is really interesting. And I haven't been to Pittman recently, but I've heard what they're doing there. And I think it's, it's a really interesting idea that maybe the education, the specialized education could start a little earlier. And that addresses some of the issues with getting people onto the floor before 18 as an intern or just getting some hands-on experience.
That explains something, at the museum, we were required to put steel reinforcements on all of our beams. It's about $350,000. And so they install all of the stuff and that. And then the engineer came along and said, well, okay, it's all done, it's all bolted, but now that all needs to be welded in place, okay? It took them 5 months.
Yeah.
To find the welders to come and do that. And we wouldn't sign off until all of that was done.
Right.
Now I understand why. When you say there's a shortage of welders.
And electricians and general mechanics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
HVAC, plumbing.
yes,
Right?
you name it, there's a
I
shortage.
think too, like, that wasn't really, I don't know about you, but that was never really messaged to my generation. I'm 33. Nobody ever, it was like college, school, like, you know what I mean? Nobody ever really mentioned that as an option. And even for like a woman, like, right, I would have been an electrician. My friend's dad was an electrician. He'd do like $10,000 jobs for fun on the weekend. You know what I mean? Like, but that was never really told to us. And
It is changing with generation.
Yeah,
Because you're close in age to two of my kids, and I used to gripe at school that people are only talking to college bound and trying to force them to all be college
Yep.
bound, and they're not all
Yeah.
going for that.
And I
It's
think
confusing.
exactly. And I think that even though like maybe we're a little bit further out, but how you say your stepson recently like graduated high school, and I think the younger generation is getting more of that messaging. So like maybe then the welding schools will come more when there's like that interest, right? Or like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but there has to be a bridge of messaging to get them here.
Yeah.
The Essex City School District has 35 different CTE pathways, and the subsets of concentration under that, it's like 70. And they're now doing all that alignment, but then JC classes, they need more like bring the school, they'll fill it up overnight.
Right.
Build the welding school.
Right.
It'll be full.
And one of our first steps, like I mentioned, is we're going on campus to MJC. I'm bringing all these guys, and Brian Sanders is going to be there, the president, and it's going to be informal, but we're going to start the dialogue. Brian knows that there's gaps. He's trying to manage a lot of priorities, but the more often that we're talking about it, the more often that we're strategically collaborating to try and address it, I think, we'll start to move in the right direction.
I think, growing up, I didn't grow up in this area. I grew up in Madera. Because I have friends that actually got their certificates while in high school
Mhm.
for welding, so they're
Yes.
able to get a job right after graduate. I'm over here studying, he's over here, I'm working like 9 to 5. But one thing I think you touched on earlier about educating, it's probably best for the parents and the teachers, because they're the ones who would push their students to go to these jobs.
Mhm.
I know, because on my end, I remember I'm from a first generation, so our parents always push us, go to a 4-year, go to a 4-year,
Mhm.
don't do these other jobs, but that's because they didn't know that these jobs actually pay very well.
Mhm.
So I think hitting the teachers and the parents and letting them know, hey, this is probably a good route, because I growing up, we did hear about the welding, the plumbers, but we were told, don't do those. Go to college. So
Right.
actually,
I think too, we had this discussion Saturday. We had, again, I'm speaking on my personal side, not the county side. We had a school board meeting where it was the board members who talked about our messaging. And to Todd's point, the messaging aspect of what our school districts and things are experiencing is it's very difficult sometimes to get to the parents. Hey, this is what's going on. Here are the opportunities and all this, and these are the avenues that your child can take.
Mhm.
If a lot of those parents aren't interested in hearing from the school districts, right? So we're building trust, like, back again since COVID, in my opinion. We're building trust back with school districts and parents in a lot of regions, but specifically in the Central Valley and in Turlock, in my experience, having that communication and dialogue with parents. And a lot of the parents know because a lot of them have either worked in one of these, businesses, or they've worked in this community for long enough that they know that people, you either commute to the Bay Area to make a really high salary and you live your life in a car, or you find a job around here at a really great business that is well established and has these, these positions. But it's getting them to understand that these positions are going to be at such a high value over the next 10 years that their student who might be in K-6 right now, by the time they graduate, 10% of a workforce in our community retiring in years is going to be a massive need. Right? And the supply demand issue of these manufacturers, they have to have that supply of work. That demand is going to go up drastically. So you're even implementing onto a lot of these students and parents and counselors. It's hard to try to get that message out about events that are going on at school.
Right.
Let alone here's a career pathway for your child that can make them $100,000 within 3 years of getting a certificate. And it goes back to your point, the manufacturing aspect of what you're doing. It's trying to, and Todd's point, trying to build that relationship and develop a understanding of how do we get the buy-in to come back to our community, right? We talk about the brain drain all the time, but half of the brain drain, the small percentage of brain drain that actually leave the valley rather than people who are leaving the valley for jobs that they think they have to leave for, right? They have to commute to Fremont to work in manufacturing. When there's manufacturing jobs right here, right?
Yeah.
You have to go to Tesla in the Bay Area or something like that because it's Tesla. And you've got, A1 fantastic organizations right here.
And that's where I was coming from, the
Yeah.
communication from us collectively.
Yeah.
Like there might be a media thing, we'll talk offline about it, because I think that there's a PR component for organizations to work together on. We do 2 spy internships a month at Visit Modesto. Hospitality is the number 3 industry in the United States behind the government and the armed forces. Right? You think of anything from an attraction to a zoo, to a hotel, to a restaurant, it's all hospitality. And we're having the same problem in hospitality, which is why we do spy programs every month.
Yeah.
And Cal Travel, I'm on board. It's a hot topic.
And we're looking around, there are people who have had some success at addressing issues like this. So Health Force Partners, they came together in part because people were leaving the area to finish their education because there were no opportunities to do it here, when in fact the hospitals here were like bringing people in from outside of the area to do the same last part of the education that people were leaving for. So I think part of it is the missed connections, and then just part of it is getting everybody together at the table and agreeing that, rising tides do float all boats. And so if we collectively decide we want to address this, that we can all benefit from it. Yeah.
And I will say probably part of the pushback that we get, or that I hear when talking to folks about Stanislaus 2030 and the Beam Circle Initiative, is a lot of times I hear folks say, why is the government doing this? They'll just look at you like, well, you're the government. Why would I want to go be a partner with Beam when the government's paying for it? And so that's just my taxpayer dollars. Right? That is a very common perception that we receive when we're talking about this Stanislaus 2030 plan. Oh, it's just another government plan. Oh, it's just another government money pit. And it's very common. It's unfortunate because a lot of this is trying to work with the private industry to build that relationship and that connection, and that we call it the public-private partnership a lot of times. And we've seen it with the child care initiative, Stanislaus 2030, rapidly taking off, and we've been able to hound the state government to try to help us address that issue with getting more and more child care in our community. But a lot of times that is the common thread is it's just another government program that's going to be gone in 10 years and nothing's going to come of it. Why would I invest my time or money?
Yeah.
So it's to your point, it's a PR issue. And
2030 is great, but it's over here. There are things between now and then.
Well, there's a lot going on. We're involved with the San Joaquin Advanced Manufacturing Roundtable that's happening next week. And people are moving forward, but it's a little bit like, it's such a big puzzle. So, we're trying to stay involved where we can and facilitate and bring people to the table, but it's a really big puzzle. There's a lot of pieces to it. Yeah.
Do you have an outlet to share scholarships for trades?
I don't right now, but we're actually talking with Jessica and
She's already got it.
yeah, right. So, and that's the other thing is I don't want to recreate something. I want to facilitate the sharing of what's already going on, right? So I see us as, because we're the end users of the product of this work, really trying to help to say, okay, we know what's going on at SPY. How do we shine a light on it? And then how do we connect SPY with, the internship, well, they're doing internships, the apprenticeship program. So we can go from apprenticeship to, or internship to apprenticeship, and like, what are the bridges that we can help facilitate there? And so, yeah, I definitely think what we want to do is, create an environment where people know all of the resources and tools that are available. It is like, if I work at one of these companies, I might be on the workforce development board, and I might be on SPY's board, or I might be participating in Stanislaus 2030, or I might, have a program with the pipe fitters union place out in Salida, but I'm not doing all of those things. And I most certainly believe that the vast majority of my members are not aware of the financial resources that are available to them. To your point, Cecil. And so what I've got to do is create a stage for everybody to have an equal position and to get everybody talking and sharing, collaborating and saying, oh, you do that? Well, we've got money for that. And yeah, so that's my goal.
We have a trades-based scholarship or scholarship, not application seasons are coming out. We're hoping to get 40 applications by April. We've got 8. So
Right.
that needs to go.
Yeah. And you're working with,
Jessica,
yeah.
I'm on that board too. She's got it. SCO's got it. A couple of committee members getting involved to trades. I was just wondering if you
Yeah,
were Rachel, the trades goals too, that we might not have touched, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been on a tour of basically junior colleges and some colleges, just to kind of start the dialogue. And this year, I feel like we're gonna go and visit MJC and Delta and UC Davis and Merced College, which is doing things that look like the future to me, you guys. Merced College.
And we'll references like that about them.
Yeah, they've got a competency-based, self-paced program that starts with how to use a computer for people who want to transition from field labor to manufacturing jobs. And it is pretty impressive. But it's not an easy transition for a school that's used to doing business this way to think about doing business this way. So, yeah.
So someone mentioned, maybe it was Cecil mentioned Volt.
Mhm.
How much involved are they a member of your organization? How involved are they in this part with you guys? And, you talk a lot about training and upskilling and so forth.
Yeah. So Volt actually was built to address the concerns that our group and more manufacturers had at the kind of consistency and turnover and leadership at Modesto Junior College. There was a general feeling at the time that there was a lack of responsiveness because the leadership was changing so frequently. And so Volt rose up and addressed that. And of course, they're with Opportunity Stanislaus. So they're not members, but we're brothers from another mother. We're supportive of each other. We look for opportunities to highlight each other's programs. And and I'm very, I know Eric, the new director over at Volt, and Dave's very, I know, hospitable and looking for opportunities for us to collaborate. So.
And they'll be here in September. Eric will be here to speak. Dave and November.
Yeah.
October.
And so Volt is one of our educational stops on our tour this year as well.
Okay.
They're just right here. They were built to serve this audience, and we want to make sure we're shining that spotlight on them. Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Money just.
Yeah.
Man.
We will meet after the meeting to discuss about investors for creating wealthy schools.
People that.
Yeah, would you like to do a report for the city of Esto?
Yeah, so, I know that some of this may be known, like, but I just have a few updates that I wanted to give. So, the first one, in terms of like small business services, the city of Modesto has partnered with Retail Strategies to develop a retail recruitment strategy aimed at boosting economic growth and enhancing the community's quality of life. So essentially what they've done is they've created like a void analysis within the city, seeing where there's infill, seeing where there's development opportunities. And Retail Strategies already hold strong relationships with retailers. So that's just a business attraction effort that we're doing. Also, in terms of that, the business attraction and retention support. So not only our partnership with Opportunity Stanislaus, but other initiatives, like I'm going to be starting a business, or well, not me specifically, like, but the department is doing a business retention program, which hopefully will start within the next few weeks, where we'll have a survey, go to different businesses, something simple, nothing crazy, like I'm sure some people have talked about, no long surveys, but just kind of gauging the business atmosphere here now. And then again, business walks with the chamber, which we're really excited about. Also, I'm sure you guys are aware of the small business loan partnership that the city has approved with the $1 million funding agreement with Valley First Credit Union. So that went live in January. We're really excited about it. If you do want information on it for either yourself or somebody you may know, it's on our website and Valley First's website. And then for community outreach and economic vitality, we have the Central Valley Real Estate Summit that we're working towards. I'm working on heavily with Trish, and Valley First is a sponsor. That's going to be April 24th of this year. And I'll continue to give updates and provide like email messaging too for as we get that out. We're hopefully going to be finalizing like marketing assets and give it out to the public sooner rather than later. And then an EDD job fair scheduled for it's EDD's event, but it's going to be sponsored by the chamber and by the city of Modesto, which will be April 9th, to connect job seekers. What's cool about that one is it's going to have currently hiring businesses, so people who are looking for a job can do interviews like right then and there, have resume critique, and just reach out, build relationships, network with businesses throughout the city. And then the last thing is the forward planning. We have the Economic Development Strategic Plan, the public listening session scheduled for March 17th from 5 to 7. So
I shared that e-blast with my board this morning.
thank
so.
you. Great. And then, and then 2 days before my birthday. So get all your economic development questions done on March 18th. So we can.
Do we have to wear green to that on the 17th?
If you don't want to get pinched, I would suggest it. So those are all the updates
Is that the only listening session that's going to be scheduled?
that I'm aware of, but I think I'm almost positive it's going to be recorded, so it'll be available.
The link, I did see a Zoom link.
And there's a Zoom or in person, yeah, so.
We tried holding an industry session with high school students and businesses that just fell on the 17th. Found out our community is very committed to St. Patrick's Day. We did not have a good show. So might be rescheduling a second date.
All right.
Things it's a little flat.
All right.
That was the first thing I thought when I saw it. So,
I had one person that was on the board at the time and he said, Trish, I would do this, but my wife will not let anyone miss Irish dinner on the 17th. So I mean, I got a bunch of those kind of responses. Did not expect it and correlated.
That's fair. I'll definitely bring that up to Jessica and Trevin. So thanks for that. No, yeah, definitely.
That Central Valley Real Estate Expo, we're really excited to have kind of been named up as a host in partnership with the city, and Valley First was the premier sponsor. We will be, as the collateral gets finalized, we will be putting out an invite to vendors again. So those in real estate construction, we had a handful last year. We're anticipating being able to do a little bit more of those this year. And the thing we have to talk about is what we're going to do the ticket price for this year.
Right.
Because it was under last time. Right, wanted that to run, so it's on the middle of the night last night, but we didn't actually finalize that piece of it.
Yeah.
And I've shared the job fair opportunity. We're co-partnering with our membership so that they're aware of it. I know at least one has signed up, there's been others. From our house. Anyone that has an ability to share, bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you. To share that we have a scholarship season open. You can find it on our website, share it anywhere. We really would love to get a good, like, rich response on that. The only other thing I have to share on top of that is on April 17th, happened in a month, is our annual AdAware scholarship event. And we haven't gotten response yet, but we are going to do our first panel rather than a keynote. And we're targeting all three of the water boards in our county. So that might be a new take, touched on a lot of stuff going on that you even not touched on. So that's the most upcoming things we have.
So John, the Modesto Marathon is coming up. And they're on the 22nd, it's the 23rd of this month. About 3,000, they expect 3,000 to 4,000 people coming into Modesto for the run. On Saturday, they do all their pickups at our place, and they have about 50 booths set up. So if any of you want to get involved with marathon and running, not me, but
You got 21 days to get, or not less than 21 days to get ready.
21 days to be trained. But this is the third year that we partnered with that big event from Modesto.
My brother ran it last year. So my brother ran the marathon last year. He flew into Phoenix to run it, and he had a good experience.
We've got a great group of volunteers, and they'll spend a couple of days cleaning up 9th Street, which we love. But it's a whole different group of people than, typically, what we see around Modesto and that. You guys are involved in it too, right? Okay.
It's their event.
Yeah, I know.
We don't make people work with us.
I didn't say that. I said, you're in business to promote Modesto, so are we, all of us promoting Modesto or region, county.
We met with them multiple times.
Did you have something you want to?
Yeah, I'm pleased to share that the 28 days running through March 1st, Modesto hotel lodging is up 7% in what's called revenue per available room. That's the actual revenue that comes for all the rooms in Modesto. And that is from an international company that gets statistics. Just for last week alone, we were up 15% in lodging. On March 20th is the Van Gogh Challenge. This is the second year we're doing this. It's a photo contest of the almond blossoms honoring Vincent Van Gogh, who spent 2 years painting almond portraits. So we already have, last year we had 82 entries. We're already over 100 for this year. Garage Fest comes back for its second annual and maybe sadly its last, we hope not, program, and that'll be on April 26th. And information registration is out there already. And if you subscribe to our newsletter, you'll get information or see it online and on Instagram. And we have a video of Stacy manufacturing an almond butter milkshake on our YouTube channel. You have seen it. We still use it to this day. Your interview is actually part of an audiobook now.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I'm a published author.
Well, it's part of the Almond Blossom book that's on Barnes and Noble and coming to Amazon soon. So
Awesome.
there's actually an audiobook for the Almond Blossom tour, of course.
And I missed one next week on the 11th is our next Rise and Shine with the CEOs. And this one is going to be held at Greens on the room upstairs towards the back. And we're leaning into construction this time. We will have Jared Steinwork with F&M on commercial Lending, Garrett Huff with Huff Energy Solutions, and Tori, who owns Modesto Executive Electric, is the panel this time. So tickets are still on sale there.
Great.
All I got.
Right, so this month, November 21st, shout out to sister committee, TRC, Government Relations Council. So they're gonna have Chris Ott, the new MID board member, will be there. And then Wednesday, April 2nd, EDC, Heidi Savage, the new president, CEO of Domo and DID, will be here to talk about, update us on what's going on downtown. And then on May 7th, EDC, our very own Todd Aronson will be here to talk about, to visit Modesto, and sadly, all the blossoms will be on the ground by then. And
We have a lot of info on economic impact.
yeah, great. I look to have that. And then I'm gonna go out on a limb and announce a co-sponsorship. So in talking with Michael Gaffney at GRC, we thought, and then Trish and Kirsty, I think there's just 4 of us brainstormed that we would create a summer series. And this will be June, July, August, and September. And it will be a joint meeting at a separate venue. One of them will be breakfast, I think, 2 lunch.
3 lunches and 1 afternoon.
3 lunch, 1 at no breakfast, 3 lunches and 1 kind of afternoon, and it'll be at the state. And so people can go to happy hour at intermission afterwards. And so we decided to brand it, Michael's idea. We can't take credit, but Water, Well, Contentment, Health. And so June will be about water. We're looking to get someone from the water board here. Wealth will be July, and we're looking to have a city council person, supervisor, and talk about everything.
Manny's got a lot of wealth.
He's got a lot of wealth, and it's not gonna be about personal wealth or development, but we're talking about things like the old courthouse and the soccer stadium, and what's going on with those things, what's going on with some of the transportation issues. And then contentment, we're going to focus on education. And then the last will be health. And we're looking at hopefully having a panel from all 3 hospitals with their CEOs. So I'm looking for that. It'll be a ticketed event, but there'll be food. Like I said, bigger venue. And so we just thought we're going to try and do this and shaves Michael and my having to get speakers down by half. And so we're looking forward to it. And we think hopefully it'll be a good turnout. So.
Renee, I was going to open up for those that joined us late online, but I see your hand is up. So feel free to unmute, Renee. Introduce yourself as well, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks, Trish. I'm with ACE, Altamont Corridor Express, with the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission. I'm a senior regional initiatives coordinator. But I joined today because I want to introduce our newest member to our team, Adel Ahmed. He's our newest public relations manager, which you will see out and about in your community at events, meetings like this, and also Lakita, which you may or may not have met, is on the meeting as well too. She provided an update to this group, I think a little less than a year ago. But I did include in the chat a website of our workforce development program. And Trish, I'll connect with you. It might be a great opportunity for us to share outcomes of that program. We started our 3rd cohort in January, and we're expecting 23 graduates that some are in high school. And also the Rail Commission is hiring a couple positions, and our train operator has 5 positions open as well too. So I like the discussion about workforce development and job opportunities, which we have both within the Rail Commission. But let me pass it on over to Adele if he's available.
Sorry, yeah. Renee put me on the spot. I was finishing my lunch. Good afternoon, everybody. There's a train in the background, so apologize about that. The new public relations manager here at the Regional Rail Commission. Excited to be on board. And yeah, my focus is going to be honestly to make sure that I'm integrated into the community. I know that there have been long delays on getting our program up and running in Modesto and San Jose County, but my understanding is we are actually right around the corner from some dirt being moved. So my task is going to be to essentially update everybody that needs to be updated, be available to groups like yours for any questions. Myself and Lakita, who oversees the project in this area in Stanislaus County, to get the word out that, we're going to start getting some dirt moving and share as much information as we can with you and your community. I'm going to be out there hopefully quite a bit in the next coming months, and looking forward to meet folks in person and getting to know more about you and your issues and your concerns and see how I could help you out.
Thank you.
Lakita, do you want to chime in also?
Myself off. Hello, everyone. Lakita Huckabee, and Renee is correct. It's been a few months though that Dan Levitt and I came out and gave a presentation. Nothing really additional to share at this point. Just wanted to greet you all. Always very interesting meetings there. I learn a lot. All right, that's all I got.
To see you again. Renee, I'm glad you called out the chat because it wasn't notifying me there was anything there. But it's interesting, if you have a place that you share scholarship opportunities, we did have one applicant that was looking to get more education on the rail system last year. I don't know that they were selected from the batch we had, but this is interesting that you're sharing this. So,
Yeah, we'll definitely provide you some hard copies in case if you get that interest in your office. Yeah, there's a handout for you to provide them or an email. But yeah, now you have 3 contacts to reach out to us. So yeah, let us know how we can be a resource.
Sounds good, Renee. Thank you. That's all I have, I think. Michelle is listening in during the lunch break. She's in the other room. She's our membership coordinator.
Way to go, Michelle.
She's loving these.
So-
I'm gonna take my lunch and listen to you.
No. I know we're just enjoying it, so. All right, without further ado, we hope to see you back at GRC, and some of you I know will be there, Patrick, and then EDC next month. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Take a sandwich if you're still hungry.